line that was being used. And as I then, traveled from Stralsund, I decided I'd go back and do something, picture of the old synagogue. I'd do something, and this is all that's left of the synagogue as of 1939, rather. The outside steps. The other things that I found there were lists. The Germans kept books. This is a roster of the entire Jewish community back in early 1938, developed by the CRIPO, the criminal police. My name's on that too, my brothers, my parents, grandparents. It's kind of strange to see yourself on a police roster. They kept good records. This was a record of the people who were deported from Stralsund in February 1940 to the ghetto in Poland. Those were the only Jews that were left at that time. And at that particular point, once this action had been taken, the city declared itself Judenrein. That meant we are now cleansed of Jews. That was a point of honor for that city. And they say they were the first city in Germany to be able to make that statement. The Jewish cemetery in the city has been restored. It's still there. And now, this is the gravestone of my great-grandparents, and the small plaque in front of it is a plaque that my cousins and I put down there to memorialize our grandparents who were on that initial transport from Stralsund in March of 1940. This is the stone for my paternal grandparents, and I placed a memorial plaque for my parents in front of that because I went back there twice more in order to place those plaques because I felt it was important that somehow their name be memorialized in that community. While that was going on, though, they had, in the meantime, developed a memorial for the Jews of the community, which was placed in an old cloister. And as my son and I were going through town and doing the tours, we came upon this poster in one of the old churches. It invites the community to a memorial day to memorialize the Crystal Nacht, Night of the Broken Glass, in 2006 rather it was. In the morning, they were going to look at that, meet at the memorial stone, the stair. Then they were going to have a memorial service at the cemetery, and that evening a lecture. This is the old family home. Now that was the family story. Look at what it is now. What's interesting about it is that where there used to be a staircase in the middle of the store, taking between the first and second stories of the store, and now I have an escalator. This building was built in about 1750. In front of that building are now what we call Stolpersteine, tripstones. What they have done is to put into the front of the homes where the Jews who were deported lived plaques memorializing them as a way of having them come back to the community. The Germans have now spent an awful lot of time. We're now 3 generations away from the actual incident. They have spent a lot of time memorializing the events of the Holocaust. As you drive through Germany and go along the Autobahn, you find signs pointing out where the concentration camps were. You find these markers in various cities throughout the country. And they have developed a variety of other memorial kinds of techniques. Just last week, I got this clipping from the local newspaper on the 68th anniversary of the deportation, February 1940. On the 12th of this month, they had volunteers out cleaning up, polishing the Stolperstein, the memorial plates, as a way of memorializing. You know, I often wondered whether they meant it or not, but at least they get their fingers dirty. Thank you.
To him that we had forgotten to get water for our guests. Michael is also our grand chauffeur, so interrupting the lecture, I would like to say personally very much thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
He's connected to that a little bit.
It's over. Can you hear me? Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just had it. Listening to these, my two previous speakers, I'm out of breath. I have quite a different story, however, it comes down to the same thing. My name is Lillian Judd, and I'm a Holocaust survivor. And I want to say good afternoon to all of you, or good evening. And I would like to thank the professors for inviting me to speak about share my experiences in Hitler's concentration camps. But first, I would like to ask all of you to think about anger, think about hate, how this whole thing came about. First came the anger that was built up in the people. That turned into hate and prejudice, and they were ready to kill, and against the Jews who never did anything to them. I thought if I tell you this now, beware and look out for people that are abusing minorities for any reason, whether they're Jewish or black or brown or purple. Just step in. I don't mean physically. Call somebody. Here in America you can do it. Over there the whole country was against the Jews and we had no one to turn to. Call somebody and break up any fight that is unjustly and painful. Because hate, anger, and prejudice and greed can accomplish the Holocaust. And let's make a stop to it. You're the young people I'm looking up to. Thank you very much. And now I go to my story. I was born and raised in Czechoslovakia. In 1938, I was 14 years old when my country was occupied by Hungarians under the German regime. As soon as they came in, they took away the Jewish people's licenses from all their businesses and took over the businesses also. And we had no rights, soon they made us wear the yellow stars, and we couldn't do this, and we couldn't do that. And we had a lot of intimidations from them, and they picked up young people from the streets, and they were just talking, teenagers, and the black limousine came, and the Gestapos and packed them into those cars, and most of them never was seen after that. In 1944, this went on and off until 1944, when they gave us notice that we have to relocate. Relocate where? We have to leave our homes, take just as much as we can carry in our hands, and go and meet on the street at a certain place where they designated. As I came, that morning was the most traumatic morning for me, and I thought that was the worst. I came out, and I saw the old people, because by then there were no young people, but the young men were taken into forced labor camps, and there were only old men or handicapped or women and children. Now some of them were standing in that line already, and I came out and looked at them. They had tears in their eyes, the children were crying. It was early morning, and it was cold. And they were bewildered. Why do we have to leave our home and our bed so early? The old people, tears in their eyes. It was a horrible sight. I'll never forget it. And that made me realize that to most of the world, it's 6 million Jews were killed, women, children, and men. To me, I see the eyes and the faces of those killed. So we are in the line. We had to make rows of 5, and there were a lot of guards around us with guns, and they were watching us. There was no place to go, but they were guarding us so we wouldn't run away. So we started to march, and we marching and marching slowly, and we get to the end of the city, and there was the brick factory, and they took us in there, and I looked up, and I saw there in the fields, the shelves, like what they used to put the bricks when it came out from the kiln to cool, and now there were no bricks there. But there certainly was filled with straw. There was straw, and Jewish people from around all the villages of my city. It was terrible. It looked like a zoo. When we came there, there was no room for us, even in those cages or shelves. So we had to go around and find some pieces of wood or broken bricks or anything, cardboard, whatever we could find to make some kind of a shelter for us. I at the time didn't know how can it possibly be done. But then some boys that I used to know came over and they helped us. And in no time they put together something that it had on the top some blankets for protection and the sides also. And there was just enough room for 6 people to sleep inside on the floor. We didn't have much food. We didn't have anything. We couldn't bring anything. So we were very depressed, and the problem was my mother was the strongest in our family usually, and now she lost her control, and she was just quiet and saying, as long as we're together, it's okay. If any of you is taken from me, I'm as good as dead. And she kept saying that over and over. We were under those terrible conditions, covered with the streets, the fields were covered with mud because it was raining. And there no place to go, and they couldn't get any more food. They were giving us some watery soup once a day. And we were there for 6 weeks. Then an officer came and pointed out, now, this group will be relocated. Get ready, tomorrow morning we're leaving. And then he didn't go here, he went on the other end, so that we couldn't be mixed up with people that we know. So they assembled a whole bunch of people, because there were thousands there. And we had to be ready in the morning to leave the ghetto. As we were lining up, there were some young Hitler-Jugends, young teenagers that were taught how to beat the Jews and how to hate. And they really were ready to hit everybody, but it wasn't fast enough for them moving. My dad was also shot in the World War I, and on his leg, and he couldn't walk without a cane, and had a hard time. And I was helping him always there, let him lean on me and the other side on the cane. And we started to march. I didn't know where we were going. And I was just pushing him fast and fast so that the kids wouldn't hit us. And we came to the railroad station. And there I saw these open boxcars as far as I could see to one side and to the other side. And they were wide open, the gates were wide open. And very soon they started to shout, everybody in the cars, everybody in. We were shocked. But we were trying to do as fast as they can, as we could, what they asked. I remember pushing my dad in front of me to the car, and then up to that car, because it was high. My mom was up there, and my sisters also. I went up there, and I thought, now we are full. That's it. They started to push more and more people in until they were practically only standing room. When all those boxcars were packed and loaded, I heard them starting to close the gates. They didn't give us any water. There were no toilet facilities, no food, but they closed the gates on us. And we were just standing there, and look, I was standing near the wall, and there were the slits between the boards that I could look out. Very soon, I heard the wheels turn, screeching, and we were on our way someplace. Along the way, we stopped someplace to refuel or something, and I looked out through those slits, and we were in Poland. And some of those faces were so happy to see us go. They knew where they were taking us, and they knew we'd never come back, possibly, but they were happy. And there, a woman's voice, a baby's crying, and a woman's voice, please give us some water. My baby is so sick. Please give us a little water. And somebody hollered, keep the bread quiet, no water. But she couldn't keep him quiet, because it's a sick baby. And then very soon I heard some shots, 2 shots, and then it was quiet. So I just can't figure out what happened. And that was a few of those cars ahead of us. And people had to go to the bathroom, and there was no place to what we do. Someone had a bucket, donated it, and some people donated some a blanket, and 2 people had to hoard it to give some privacy for the person that had to eliminate. Okay, there we are. We can't figure out where we're taking us. everything is so uncertain and so scary. And the bucket got filled in no time. And there is nothing to do with it. What can we do with those buckets? They tried to throw it out through those slits, but the train was going so fast that the wind blew it right at us. So they decided to let it be and let it overflow and let it go down the floor somehow. And that's what happened. But the stench was terrible. It was so smelly there. And we were just there. There's still no drinks. And all of a sudden, about the fourth day, one of the ladies hollered out, "I hear music playing. They're welcoming us to the place we have to work. You're going to work here," and they're welcoming us. And we all looked at her, and the train stopped. And we heard music too, because they opened the gates. And when we came to the point where we could look out to those gates, we saw a sign, "Welcome to Auschwitz-Birkenau." Labor makes happy, makes free. Work makes you free. Then I heard the shouting, calling us all kinds of names. "Hurry up, get off the train!" And I was at that time fluent in German. I never heard those words. They were calling us all kinds of bad names. And "Hurry up, out! Hurry up, get out!" without packages. And that was constantly on that. My poor father was carrying a small briefcase with his prayer objects, with a talit, prayer shawl, and a prayer book, and the things that he had put on his forehead. And he reached for it. I had him get down off the wagon, and he reached for the briefcase. I don't know from where, an SS was right there with so much anger and hate in his face. He never saw us. How can the person hate another person that way? But it was obvious. And he took his rifle and he started to beat my dad over his head, over his shoulders, until he was just covered with blood and collapsed. And at that point, the SS motioned to some other people, other prisoners there in striped uniform. And they came over and each of them grabbed one foot of my dad, and they were pulling him. And I watched how his bloody head was bouncing on that uneven ground. And that's the last I saw him. They threw him on a truck, and when the SS came looked toward me, I said, why did you kill him? He didn't do anything. And all he said is, "You want to go with him?" And lifted his rifle. And I didn't wait for him to hit me. And I have a picture right here that shows my dad was killed by that dog, by that fish. I'm running, and my sisters and my mom are on those pictures. If you want to come down later to look at it. And I was running together, so it would be together at least. I never told them anything about how my father died. And we were forced to stand in a line again, 5 to a row, and we were marching. They were shouting, hurry up. There was no place to go. The guy in front of me was the other person. I made a bigger step. I stepped on him. Because by then, the men were separated. By then, while I was busy watching my father, they separated all the men and took him away. Now we are 4 girls and my mom walking. And she keeps saying, they're separating us, they're taking if they take any of you from me, I'm as good as dead. And she keeps on saying, and what am I going to say? Mom, don't worry about it. We'll get together at the weekends, because that's what we were taught. And I came to grab into that because there's nothing else. And my sister standing next to me, my third sister, and she was kind of tall, and I thought that she would have come with us maybe. I said, Renee, pull yourself down so you could be with Mom and spend the week with Mom. And she did. And they separated us. Next to I was the oldest girl, and next to me was my sister. And the two of us were ordered to one side, the three of them to the other side. And then I wanted to look back to say goodbye to them. I didn't see them. They pushed them away around the corner. They were gone. I didn't even have a chance to say goodbye to them. Since then, I'm living with this thought. I meant well. I thought I'm doing the right thing by telling my sister to pull herself down. But I regretted so deeply ever since I was home that I spoke up that time. I regretted it so much. I still feel it, that who knows, maybe she could have come with us and survived. But that's all gone now. And I have to learn to live with that too. But now we are again marching, and they're pushing, shoving, fast. And they call us names. I couldn't repeat it if I wanted to, because I don't remember how I said it anymore. And they were coming toward a very building. And that building was quite a ways from us at the rate that we were going forward. And when we came closer, I saw there the steps in front of the door. And soon I could see that each time they took in 5 people, one row at a time. But they took them out, waited a while, and then they took some others. But I never saw anybody coming out from that building. So I didn't know what to make of it. And as soon as we came closer, it happened to us. We had to go in. And I saw it was a huge, and the floors were covered with hair, beautiful long hair, in all shades, in all colors. And where did that come from? And what is happening? What are they going to do with all that hair, right? Very soon I found out that there were about 6 German officers, Nazis, standing there and coloring, telling jokes to each other, and they were laughing. But every now and then said, take everything off. And I figured, I'm not going to undress in front of God, man. I never did it before. I was a virgin. So I'm not going to undress. Well, it wasn't up to me. There were some girls that helped them, and they pulled me down, pulled me over, and they pulled my clothes and threw them on the ground. And I said, how am I going to, why are you throwing my clothes down? I'm just telling you all this mentality. I was worried about my clothes. Why are you throwing them down? How am I going to get it? You won't. You're going to get others. You're going to get some other clean clothes. When I was naked, she pushed me in a chair. Another girl comes and I see a shaver, not a shaver, a razor blade or something like that. You cut hair bit in her hand. And I'm looking at it, and she's putting it to my head, and she's starting to cut my hair all the way down. I had long hair too. And it made me beautiful. But now they cut my hair, so I couldn't imagine how I looked. And they cut my hair everywhere. They just shaped us everywhere. And then they gave us a piece of something that they called soap. It was like a piece of rock. And they said, go into that room. And I went to that room. They left us, let us keep our shoes, that's all. And then my sister came in and we looked at each other and we couldn't recognize each other, but then we knew that she's my sister, I'm hers, but we did not have a chance. There were no mirrors, so we could see ourselves. But when I saw her, I started to scream and cry, and she saw me, because then she did the same, because, you know, I can imagine how I looked when I looked at her. We were standing there, and I noticed on the ceiling there were some shower heads, like, I didn't know what it was for, but we were standing there, and all of a sudden the cold water came. They let the cold water come on us. And it was shocking at first, but then it was good to wash off all that sting that we acquired in the bus scars. And we washed ourselves up, and then because we got water. But then I didn't realize one thing, that we are lucky we got water. The others before us, our families, and after us, they got gas, and they were killed right at the same place. And then the commando had to come and pick them and tear them apart because they were rubbing in each other's hair and throwing in the crematorium. And I found that out later too. Now they pushed us outside, naked, no towels, naked. And it was very cold. I was shivering, I was cold, chilled to my bones. And since then, I'm still cold even here, even now. We were standing there and they kept on counting us, and there was no place to go. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, now you can come and get your clothes. We came in and, you know, the clothes they were giving us, the leftovers that they took off from the people that were already in the camps, and they were taken in again for shower, and they were gassed. And they gave us those clothes. They were dirty. I got a short mini skirt, no underwear, no stockings, and a short sleeve blouse. I was freezing. I can't tell you how cold I was. And then they said, now you come, now line up again. And when I looked around me, I saw 3 large tables. One was loaded with eyeglasses, and a woman was sorting the children's eyeglasses out. And there was another table that was loaded with shoes, children's shoes. And the third table was loaded with dentures. And in Europe, they put in the dentures on board too sometimes. And every piece was shining, and there was a little gold shining in those dentures. And that was the most confusing thing for me to see. Why are they taking away the dentures from the old people? How are they going to eat? How are they going to exist? Well, maybe if at that point someone would told us that they don't have to eat anymore, they died, they did. I don't know if I would believe that. But actually that's what happened. Then we were lined up again, and we were taken to the barracks where we were supposed to stay. And we came to this barrack, and there was a big courtyard. And in front of the yard, in front of the door, there was a big can, like a garbage can, big one, filled up with something that also looked like garbage. And somebody says, oh, we're gonna work here because we are going, there is the food we're gonna feed the animals with. So we just let that go, and we came to the courtyard, and I saw a small window, glass window there. It was reflecting the monkeys. And I'm looking and I can't figure out which monkey was I. They all look the same. So I went like this and this, then I saw myself and I started to scream and cry. It was terrible. I did look like a monkey, even to myself. By then the block elder still, who was the block supervisor, came out and said, now, you listen. And she had about 12 helpers, all strong because they all got good food. And she says, you will do what I tell you, or else you're going to listen. So then we lined up, and then she tells us to be quiet and go into the barrack. There were several, there were these big bunk beds. They had 5 layers in each bunk bed. They slept, each layer slept 5 people. It was filthy. It was only the wood. You could see the boards, and some of them were filthy. And they gave us 1 blanket for the whole group. So they put us into these. We all settled into those beds with the pillows, because they made it quiet. And when everybody was taken care of, we jumped up. We were running towards the gate. Like on a city, everybody jumped up and then towards the gates. When she saw us, she came out for her revolver. She was sleeping. What do you think you're doing? We want to see our families. She says, you can't see your families, and you think you have it bad? I am here already for 40 years, and I built this thing for you. And you think you can complain? You were sitting in your houses eating the goose livers by the fireplace, and she was turning them against. I don't know what goose liver she was talking about, but she was turning them against us, and she was pretty mean to us. So now they pushed us, they forced us back to our homes. And then after 5-10 minutes again, now we jumped up more determined and ran again toward the gate. And now the supervisor came out and says, so you want to see your families? Yes? Yes. Oh, yes. And we see her opening the gate. Huge gates. And I look out, and it's already dark. But I look, but the burning flesh, human flesh, was terrible. The stench was unbearable. And I look up, and the skies are a vivid red. And she says, so you want to see your parents, your families? Look up, there they are burning. And that's what happened. The crematorium, for the fire from the crematorium, I guess, reflected on the skies. So that we had to believe her. The stench, the red sky, we had to believe her, and we went back very quietly to our beds. And we cried all night. I never knew I had so many tears. 4 o'clock in the morning, we were awakened. Sail up. The counting was, we had to line up, and the counting was over and over and over. And if one of the helpers made a mistake, one of the girls made a mistake. They counted over until the Nazis came with a hard-working German shepherd dogs. It's so scary, and they counted us and they let us go. So that's when they took us to the latrines, and they introduced us. You know what the latrines are? And then those are places our bathroom. The other big trench and put some wood boards on the top so that we could sit down and eliminate. And then they said coffee time, and they brought some hot water, and they called it coffee. I never had coffee in my life up to that point, but I was so cold, and they gave me a little hot water, black water, and they called it coffee, so I said, yeah. And since then, that's how I drink my coffee even here. Hot liquid was good. And now, how can I say what I want to say in 20 or less minutes? 25. That's a life of experience. I would love to carry.
I would invite people who might have questions to come.
Yes, I would like to ask questions.
Unfortunately, we don't have. I'm sure all of our panelists will entertain a few questions more. This is a very rigorous exercise for them, and I want to congratulate you for your attention, and I know it meant a lot to them to have you listen. You'll put your papers over to
One more thing before you all go. This is why I told you what I told you. I knew I'm going to run out of time. And I tell that always at the end.
remember what Lillian had to say.
About anger. Control your anger. Or the anger to control you.